Hello, I'm Kevin Ansenberger, and welcome to this week's edition of the Sports Interview. If you are hearing me right now, you're probably listening to 90.7 WEHC at the halftime of the football game. And if you are seeing me right now, you are probably on Comcast Channel 3. Whether you're hearing me or seeing me, I welcome you to the Allen set. And today I have Alex Polidorov, a freshman tennis player, who's had a very interesting summer. Alex, thank you for joining me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Kevin.
Yeah, so I've talked to you many times before, and you're from St. Paul, Minnesota.
That's right.
I want to know, how did Coach score you, man? How did you get recruited here?
Right. So Coach got in contact with me, I want to say back in November, and it was kind of a traditional process. Talked to him a lot, and eventually, did a whole bunch of research and got out to visit. In February, I interviewed for the honors program, and I got to meet some of the tennis players. I got to hit around, and I got to see some of the area off campus, and everything really worked out for me. The area, I love the mountains. I love how campus looks. I loved the professors I met. The students were a group that I could see myself fitting in with, and so really being on campus, I could really feel the vibe, and it felt like something that would work well for me.
And now you've made it to campus. We've completed our fall season.
That's right.
Just ended last weekend.
That's right.
Killed Ferrum 7-2. Great job, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
How would you grade this fall season so far?
It's been it's overall it's been a good fall season. We've had a couple new additions to the team, which have obviously helped, and we came out 2-1, and we had a tournament on top of the regular fall season that we had an okay showing at. So I would say overall we had a really solid fall season, and then our only loss was to Averett University, who I think we really could have beat. It was a tough match. Came down to the last player on the court. So overall, a really good fall season, and we get Ferrum again, or we get Averett, again in February. So we're looking to bounce back off that first loss. But overall, yeah, really solid fall showing.
So now you got a bit of an off season. You play again in February or March.
Yeah, I think probably the last week in February we'll get back on the courts, heading back out to Averett.
Okay, and speaking of off seasons, almost everybody on campus has heard about it by now. It's October, but you had a great trip to Mexico this past summer.
Right.
I want to hear all about it, man.
Okay, so I guess it started about a week after I graduated high school, and I had planned going to Mexico and learning Spanish, and eventually I settled on a plan, and I got on the plane. Yeah, just about a week after I graduated, I flew into about the most central city in Mexico called León, Mexico, in a state called Guanajuato. It's geographical center of Mexico, which is a good place to start. A guy that I had made arrangements with online, a local teacher that I was able to meet online, he picked me up from the airport and took me back to Guanajuato, showed me a couple things, and he had actually arranged for a family that I could stay with for a couple days just to get acclimated and to be able to find an apartment. And luckily, a couple days into my trip, I was at kind of an upscale art exhibition, and I met a lawyer from Mexico City, talked to him for a long time, and he was going out of town the next morning, so, on the spot, maybe 10-15 minutes after knowing him, he invited me to come live in his house for, the week that he was away doing his job in Mexico City, and I said, well, I'll take you up, because I needed a place to live, and it didn't have too much money, so I ended up, walking this guy's dogs, watering his plants, doing really whatever he needed me to do for that week, and, from there, it was a good time to meet people. I was walking around with dogs all the time, and everybody was coming up asking me the breed, which I didn't really know. But so that was a good way to meet a lot of people. And from there, he helped me find other connections within the city to live with after that. So I was kind of like it was kind of flipped around, like the white guy was doing the landscaping. So it was a really, really cool experience. And then from that central part in Mexico, I was able to travel all around the country, and a couple of the trips that stuck out. One was a trip out to the coast. I spent maybe 5 days on the coast. I took buses all the way out there, and I got into Puerto Vallarta, which is a kind of a touristy coast city, and I decided it wasn't really for me. It the vibe was too upscale, a little expensive, and then I just got in a bus, went a little more up north, and eventually stumbled on a nice little beach town that I spent a good amount of time at. And then I got back to Guanajuato, did a tour of the northern states, which wasn't the safest part of the country, but I had a good time there, and met a really, really cool bunch of people up north. and then eventually made my way down to Mexico City, which was a really, really good experience. And that was when I was able to use the Couchsurfing network, which is an online network to help you find free places to stay. People will take you in, and then back in your hometown, you take people in that are traveling through the area. So I stayed with a 19-year-old girl for 5 or 6 days on through the Couchsurfing network, and with that I was able to see all of Mexico City, and I actually traveled with her and some friends down south, and spent some time with them in a state called Morelos. And then I head back up to Mexico City, spent some time at the pyramids, and headed back up to Guanajuato for the I guess remaining week or two of my vacation. So it was overall that's kind of an overview, but a lot of things happened in between, but overall really, really cool experience.
Now, I mean, you're 18 years old, you're a freshman. Most freshmen struggle with, that transition and, leaving your hometown.
Right.
And here you are a week after graduation, just going, what triggered this independency?
I don't know if I can point that to one thing. I just wanted to do something out of the ordinary. I had always had a love for the Spanish language, and I thought, what better to really, really get immersed in the culture. And, the immersion experience that I was looking for was a little bit different because I didn't want to speak any English. And this, being in Guanajuato, where there's really not a whole lot of tourism, not a whole lot of Americans or people from England or Australia traveling, that was really the best opportunity to get the true immersion experience. And, even if I had problems, being able to solve them in Spanish and just not having the option to speak English for, the almost 2 months that I was down there was really what I needed to solidify, a fluency in the Spanish language.
And unfortunately, we're out of time for this sports interview. If I could keep it going longer, it would definitely be longer.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Thank you so much for joining me on the set. And that concludes our sports interview for this week. We will now send it over to Nathan Fischel, who has the sports update.